Objects have attributes or characteristics. You know that about objects in the real world. In the world, an object might have a color, a size, perhaps a smell. Certain objects will have speed to them. Some objects will be living, some will not. They might have density. Objects could even have attributes that we create, that we make up if we're inventing an object. Well, guess what? In R, the objects have attributes. They have a class. We've already discussed that. We can have names for our objects. We can have dimensions. We can have names for the dimensions. Objects can have levels or comments or, this is pretty cool, stuff we make up. That is, we can add an attribute to an object. Let's do this with vectors. We've been working with vectors. We're going to have attributes of other objects as well, but since we've only been working with vectors so far, let's take a look at the attributes of vectors. Remember our even nums vector. That was the one that we made with doubles, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Let's take a look at the attributes of even nums. It says there's none. There are no attributes to even nums. It turns out that for vectors, some attributes are not listed with the attributes function. For instance, the class. That is done specially with the class function. But can the vector have attributes that we can see? Yes, if we set those. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm actually going to name all of the elements of the even nums vector. Now this is kind of silly because we know that we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. We'll see the usefulness of this later on. But I'm going to go ahead and name these even nums by characters with concatenation of a character vector. And I'm going to use the names function right here. So let's go ahead and name them. And now let's look at the even nums vector. Now what you see is that not only do we have the double numbers within the vector, but each of these numbers has a name to it. The 2 goes with the 2, the 4 with the 4, the 6 with the 6, and so forth. The vector is still a double. It is still, if I look at the class of even nums, we're still going to get numeric. And if I look at the type of data in there, it's not going to say that it's character because that's not what the vector is. The vector of even nums are those actual double numbers, but we have named each one of those locations. If I now look at the attributes of even nums, notice that the attributes will include names. Before it said null, it said that there were no attributes. Now that's not really true because it does have attributes like class, but it's not distinguished by the attributes function. But names are given as an attribute, so it says, hey, there are names there, and it tells us what the names are. If we wanted to, when we create a vector or any kind of object, we can add the names at that time. Here I'm going to create odd nums, and I'm going to name 1 to 1, 3 as 3, 5 as 5, and 7 as 7. And so if I look at odd nums now contains 1, 3, 5, 7. Again, the class of odd nums is numeric because 1, 3, 5, 7 is the vector, not the words 1, 3, 5, 7, Those are the names. We can add comments to an object. Here I'm going to comment about even nums that it's a list of even numbers. I'm actually going to give it 2 comments. Notice the concatenate because I'm using 2 strings, a list of even numbers that I created on the 17th of January, 2021. So let me put in that comment, look at the attributes. The attributes now are 2 attributes, names and comment. Now later on, we're going to see why there's a $sign in front of each of these. For now, just set that aside as a point of wonder, something to ponder when you're out looking up at the stars at night. You might ask, why are there $signs in front of the attributes? It will all become known later on. All will be revealed. So I have 2 attributes. I know that I have more than 2 attributes, but the attributes function is just showing me these 2. Names and comment. Notice the comment, there are 2 comments, list of even numbers and when it was created. And now, glory, glory, I can create my own attributes. I'm going to use the attribute function. I'm going to say with attr, that is for creating attributes as opposed to the other function, which is for the attributes is for looking at attributes. The attr will create an attribute. So with attr, I'm going to take my vector even nums. I'm going to create a new attribute called category, and I'm going to use even nums. Could I use odd nums? Yes, I could, but it wouldn't make much sense here. Could I add other categories? Yes, I could. But let me go ahead just and create this. And now look at our attributes. We have names, which is a built-in attribute that was not set to begin with. That's why we had null. We had comment, also a built-in attribute, but it was null. That is, it was not set. But now we have an attribute that's not built in, one we created ourselves called category, and we're going to call this even nums.